Mark Chapman, longtime watcher of your channel along with other Scientology channels, and I have a question that I have yet to find an answer for, which I'm hoping you may be able to provide. My question relates to the level of indoctrination within Scientology. I've seen a few videos with audio clips from LRH lectures on YouTube talking about his so-called research. I'm wondering how the church knows that someone is indoctrinated enough into the Scientology way of thinking to be able to listen to these lectures without questioning where the results of this research is. I can't see everyone in the church being fully indoctrinated at the same level after a certain amount of courses or OT levels. So how does the church know when someone is able to listen to these lectures without asking any questions about the validity of the research and asking to see the results? Keep up the good work in exposing Scientology as a money-making scam and all the other work you do to expose the dangers of cult behavior. Thanks, Mark. Great question. I don't know if you saw the kind of extensive podcast I did a couple months ago about training, Scientology training, but I'm going to leave a link in the description on this video to that so you can check that out. It is really important to understand how the Scientology training works because it kind of addresses your question. People are not necessarily watched for when they're going to be ready or when they're not going to start questioning Hubbard. That's not exactly what people are watching for within Scientology. When somebody new comes along, they do the basic services, the introductory courses, the new level courses, and they buy into stuff, and it's worded in a very secular way. There's all the Scientologies is stripped out of it. Very easy to understand, very common sense principles. And people buy into that, and they assert or they ascribe L. Ron Hubbard to the source of the material. And so when they find that some of these common sense principles help them out in life, then they go, oh, wow, Scientology, great, this stuff works. And that's their fatal flaw. It's right there. See, it's this assumption that people make that if some of a thing works, then the rest of it works too. And all these people are here telling me that and reinforcing that knowledge. So therefore, this unwarranted assumption on the part of the new Scientologist gets them into all kinds of hot water. Now, that's not to say that at that point, after making that assumption, they never question anything. But it's just this thing that happens, and I don't even have some kind of label for it or explanation for it other than it's just a logical fallacy that people make. They think because of their own experience, and experience is king with this kind of stuff, they have a positive experience, they have a favorable bias to this thing, so they're going to tend to think and grant credence or credibility to the rest of the subject, even though they don't know even what it consists of or what it contains. Okay, so the training, the way the training is done, and as I described in that podcast, and I'm not going to try to redo it all here, but the supervisors, the word clearing with the dictionaries and all the various accoutrements and methods and things that go into Scientology training, all of them are designed to clear up misconceptions or misunderstandings or things the person doesn't get with the material. And all these things are designed to sort of warp your thinking around the idea that if something doesn't make sense, it's because you don't get it, not because it doesn't make sense, right? Everything L. Ron Hubbard ever said or wrote, fully consistent, non-contradictory, all makes beautiful sense. If it ever runs into any sort of problem with science or outside sources, then L. Ron Hubbard is always the go-to, is always the default answer, is what L. Ron Hubbard said, not what physics or geology or biology or any of those things said. We can just invalidate that. Hubbard is the one who knows what he's talking about. And the supervisors and the word clearers and all the staff of the Scientology organizations stand by and have this attitude about Scientology. So there's going to be this in-group sort of group peer pressure to get you to comply with that way of thinking. If something's not making sense to you, it's you who isn't getting it. It's not that the material doesn't make sense. That's really what it comes down to. And all of these methods and things, the word clearing, the false data stripping, crush and misunderstood word finding, the meter checks, like all these things that the supervisors and the word clearers do are all designed to get you and keep you in that frame of mind. So you will then self-police. After you've adopted this as true, right? Like here's a sentence that doesn't quite make sense to you. And so we go over it and, use a little demo kit or find the words you don't understand, or I make you go put it in clay or whatever we do. So you finally go, okay, now I see how this sentence could make sense. Good. See, it made sense all along. You just weren't seeing how it made sense, right? And the guy goes, yeah, I guess so. And you go, good. We're not going to talk about that anymore. And you move on, right? And then it happens again. And there you are, sitting there as the student, looking at this sentence that doesn't really make sense to you, but you know what's going to happen if you start questioning it. So you go, all right, I guess there's something here I don't understand. And you break open your dictionary and you start sorting things out. And you kind of make it make sense, right? So you're self-policing at that point. It doesn't take all but 1, 2, 3 of these things to go down this way before you're doing it to yourself. And you have all these tools to use to do it. So at that point, it becomes a habit of yours as a Scientology student. And then once that's inculcated, that, I guess, would be the answer to your question of, at that point, we don't have to worry about you anymore. Because now we can give you any aspect or part of Scientology, and you'll figure it out. You'll make it make sense somehow, right? And if you don't, and the supervisor tries to help you, or the word clearer tries to help you, and they can't help you, there's a whole area of the organization called the Qualifications Division. You're going to get sent over there, and they're going to work with you like full time, and they're going to do even auditing actions on you to get this to make sense to you if it doesn't, right? And they got all kinds of, there's so many things in Scientology that they can do to you to get your head around these concepts and ideas and get you to make them make sense to you. And here's the thing, our minds are amazing. We can hold 2 contradictory thoughts at the same time and make them make sense, even though they are mutually exclusive ideas. That's the power of our ability to wrap our logic and reasoning around things. We're that good or that bad of thinkers. We have to be as human beings because of all the different, the way we evolved is to be able to do that, because we have to if you're going to be a logical, rational creature, you're going to have to develop the ability to do that, to hold contradictory ideas in your head so that you can contemplate logic, and figure them out. And then, so the cults take advantage of that mechanism to make things that don't make sense, quote unquote. If you see where I'm going with all this, right? I'm trying to keep it simple, but anyway, I think you get my point. I'm totally sure you get where I'm going with all this. And I think that once that self-policing is in place, the guy's a Scientologist, and that's just, and there you go. So I hope that answers your question, and thanks for asking.